Truth. You don't use deodorant, toothpaste, no lotion, no cologne, and you use beef fat as sunscreen.
Mostly truth, yeah. So I don't use deodorant, generally speaking. If I'm going somewhere and have to be super professional and I don't, want to have any scent, I might use apple cider vinegar or rubbing alcohol, but I don't use any traditional.
You just rub it underneath?
Yeah, you just spray to rub it underneath.
Are you smelly?
I don't think so. But I smell like a human.
You smell like a human.
Yeah. I mean, like.
He smells lovely.
Could I potentially.
Okay, ready?
Let's go.
Coming in. No, you actually smell totally normal. No deodorant.
No deodorant.
And you're sweating.
I'm sweating. I'm sitting
the day?
here. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that a lot of.
Codie approved.
Okay, wow. That was a tense moment there. You're like,
could have gone sideways.
And I don't use toothpaste. Again, this is one of the things that I get a lot of flack for.
No toothpaste.
Toothpaste is just silly. Like, look, first of all, I'm not a fan of fluoride. And there's a lot of fluoride in toothpaste. And there's a lot of fluoride in drinking water, et cetera, et cetera. So please filter your water with a filter that actually gets fluoride out. You don't need fluoride in your toothpaste. When I was a kid, I had these fluoride trays that they used to put in my mouth at the dentist. I shudder to think about this. Anyway, you don't need fluoride in your toothpaste. And there are natural toothpastes that don't use fluoride, but then they have things like SDS, sodium dodecyl sulfate, or diatomaceous earth, things that could even be, SDS could be disruptive to the gut flora. Sometimes diatomaceous earth or other ingredients are too abrasive for the enamel of our teeth.
Isn't that like what murders little insects
that
you put in plants and stuff?
Yeah. And maybe diatomaceous earth isn't in toothpaste anymore, but sometimes they use things that are abrasive. People used to brush their teeth with baking soda.
Yeah.
This is not a good idea, right? It's way too abrasive for the enamel. So our mouth is like a reflection of our gut flora, right? And if you have bad breath, it's not that you're not brushing your teeth with toothpaste, it's that you have dysbiosis in your gut, right? So it all comes back to quality of food. I remember this time when I was in PA school, so my late 20s, I was going out on a date with a woman and I used to love Listerine. I was like, this is the greatest stuff ever. It just, and I left the house and my dad was like, he just said, what? I can smell it, it's too much. And I was like, no, it's good, it's good. I used to just crush the mouthwash, but now we know that mouthwash, it kills all of the flora in your mouth, which are essential for the production of nitric oxide. There are studies in people who are working out in the gym that when they use mouthwash, it actually attenuates how much muscle they can gain. It affects the quality and the improvement in your physiology when you do workouts by using mouthwash. So you don't want to carpet bomb your microbiome in your mouth, in your gut. We need these bacteria, and we cannot sterilize ourselves. We cannot. Look, if you go to the bathroom, wash your hands, fine. But understand that there are endocrine disruptors, potentially microbiota disrupting chemicals in many of the soaps we use. And so I don't see the point to using soap on my skin. I'm not literally swimming in mud all day. I'm okay,
So no washing hands with soap after going to the bathroom?
Well, what's in the soap, right?
Yeah.
Is it fragrance? Is it paraben? Is it phthalate? Is it triclosan, which is, I think, pretty problematic for the human gut microbiota? Okay. So if you want to use like a natural soap after you go to the bathroom, okay, but know what's in it, right? And so many of these fragrances and parabens and phthalates are problematic.
So just water?
Water most of the time, yeah. And
what about like tallow body soap?
Tallow body soap would be much better.
Better. Okay.
Much better, yeah. And again, I think that as humans, we are worried about what other people will think. We don't want to smell. We don't want to smell a certain way. We don't want our breath to be bad. And so much of this comes back to the quality of just the way we live our lives, right? What is the quality of the food you're eating? That's when you get bad breath if you're not eating that well. So that's the issue here. And I think that there are ways to make healthier toothpaste, but again, it's kind of based on this fear around, if I don't brush my teeth, my breath will be bad. And that's not really what happens. Like, humans have a natural smell, which probably is attractive to people.
That makes sense.
The other question is, do you want to, we probably cannot cover our pheromones, but we probably don't want to cover our pheromones for our partners, for potential partners, more than at all. We want people to smell us as humans. That's a connection that we have with other people. And this is all completely against the societal norm, and so it's very controversial, but I want people I'm on a date with to be able to smell my pheromones as a human. We can talk about birth control too. There's so many
rabbit. Now smelled your pheromones.
What's that?
So I said now I've smelled your pheromones.
You smell my pheromones.
We're on the same page. Okay.
You can, and you know, like if you're on a date with someone or you're dating someone, you want to know if there is genetic compatibility there.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
And that is affected by our pheromones and these signals. And though there hasn't been much research into human pheromones, the evidence is so overwhelming that they're there, just anecdotally or observationally. Humans have pheromones. All other mammals produce pheromones. Why would humans not produce pheromones? Have you seen the studies on birth control? This is relevant. So women who take birth control select different partners when they're presented with sweaty t-shirts. So they've actually, speaking of who funds these studies, like look, maybe there's hope for seed oil studies, because somebody funded a study where women on birth control were given sweaty t-shirts from men, and they knew sort of the immunologic signature of the men in the t-shirts. And women on the birth control selected different mates in terms of compatibility with their genetics than women off birth control. So what happens is that women on birth control select men who have more similar genetics. Women off birth control select men with different genetics, mostly at this MHC antigen locus in the immune system. In nature, mates are generally chosen based on genetic diversity. You want someone with different genetics than you, so you have the most robust offspring in terms of mate pairing, right? And you can see in populations that have a lot of inbreeding that people generally have more diseases and become less robust quickly. This happens in a lot of populations. You get these rare diseases that are amplified that shouldn't happen. We want diversity in terms of human mating and combinations of genetics. And so women on birth control are kind of choosing the wrong partners.
It's so scary.
And it begs the question of women on birth control choosing a partner, getting off birth control, getting pregnant, and then how many relationships does that end or cause problems with when you're actually not that compatible with your partner now and you've had a child with them or you're pregnant with them?
That's
so
wild.
In terms of choosing a partner, pretty important to know these things and sample these things. There's another study that I'll mention which is really wild on the same topic. They looked at strippers. And there are strippers on birth control and strippers off birth control. And when the strippers off birth control are performing, they earn the most tips right around their ovulation. They have a huge peak in the month when they ovulate. And the rest of the month is like less tips, right? The women on birth control earned the same amount of tips all month and it was much lower. So if there are any strippers listening to the podcast
big audience,
and you want to make more money, you got to get off birth control. But clearly men know, right? And men are paying women more when they're ovulating. There's something going on here. They're communicating. And being on birth control abolishes that. So like making mate pairing more difficult, birth control, pheromones, smelling, that's how we got on this topic, from like soaps and perfumes and all these things.
Fascinating. So let's say that you buy into it and you're like, okay, I want to decrease a bunch of these endocrine disrupting extra things that we do. What do you do so that you can still sort of manage through society? Is it tallow soap? Is it shaving your armpits if you're a man? Is it eating certain types of food? How do we not be smelly and also be healthier?
So again, the option, it's pretty simple, right? There's like rubbing alcohol, apple cider vinegar. There are more natural deodorants now that have no parabens and phthalates. There are more natural toothpaste. If you absolutely want the minty fresh feel in your mouth, which whatever, you do you know, like there's options. And I think that it's avoiding the lesser options, avoiding the ones that are going to be problematic in a cumulative fashion, because there's a lot of things that we're putting on our body and in our mouths that are not even food. We haven't even talked about food yet, right? So yeah, there's so many better options today. Again, there's probably a niche for food or for clothing companies to make better quality clothing, but you don't have to be completely, living in the jungle in Costa Rica like me.